Hey, what's going on, guys? Xbox All In channel, host Sega Forever here, bringing back my All In Popcast that I normally do on Saturdays. For the Wrecking Crew podcast, I didn't do one last night. I just didn't have the time. But what I want to do is kind of alternate. If you guys listen to the last, if you guys listen to the last Wrecking Crew podcast, um, you guys know we kind of went off on a tangent on other things other than gaming, which tends to happen in the group of guys that the brethren, the Xbox brethren that come onto the podcast. You guys know the usual suspects because a lot of us are pop culture guys. We're just not gaming guys. But this podcast right here is dedicated to actually all things pop culture. Which, not to confuse you guys, which will include gaming, which will include Xbox, because Xbox and video gaming is a part of pop culture. But I'll try and not cross the streams too much. But when we have good conversations, it's hard. It's hard not to talk about things, especially when guys bring it up, especially guys in the group. Because, like I said, everybody in the group is very, if I'm being honest, right? We might like some things more than others, like you guys know on my channel, and I'll talk about it really quickly. Is about I spend a lot of my time watching K dramas and anime, reading manga. That's what I like to do. That's what occupies my time. This is why I don't get caught up in all the Xbox stuff, unless it's for me, it's as I tell you on my channel. A lot of stuff that bothers me when it comes to Xbox is more principle based. It doesn't affect my enjoyment of Xbox and how and especially by dealing with pop culture in general, guys. Like for example, I just subscribed to Haya, and it's a streaming service for most predominantly martial arts movies. But one thing I like about it is they have movies. I mean, it's for Asia, Southeast Asia, right? So it's beyond Hong Kong and China, which I have no problem with Hong Kong and China. I still love watching those movies. It's just that the variety they've added to the service, um, they did that, and then it kind of incentivized me to actually subscribe to that. Right? And we'll talk about streaming wars as well, guys, because I think and there's some stuff that I would like to clear up when it comes to streaming, right? Because there's a lot of people out there giving their 2 cents about streaming, why it's bad, what's happening, and it all boils down to, and a lot of it I see is because of what's going on with Xbox, right? Which, case in point, like I see on this channel, kind of when we talk about something like Game Pass, which is a streaming service which you pay for every month, right? Now that Microsoft has increased the price of Game Pass, people are talking about the price a little bit more. Well, before when it was a lot more affordable to them, or they felt it was a deal, which it still is a deal. But for a lot of people, when they're paying less than $20, it didn't really bother them, and they didn't look at Game Pass other than getting free games every month. And then once Microsoft went up to the $30 mark, now people are beginning to realize what I've been saying a lot on this channel. This is why I've always told you guys, you pay for it every month. Don't feel guilty that you're playing these games, right? Because what was the narrative on the gaming streets? A lot of these guys were trying to shame you, calling it the welfare pass. It's not a welfare pass. It never was because you paid for it, right? And now you got a lot of these financial whizzes, right, sitting over here goes, well, it's $360 a year. Yeah, but there was a yearly cost to it every year when it came out. Yeah, it just didn't. You didn't pay attention to the price until now, and that's why they call it a premium service, guys. So if you guys don't like the premium service aspect of Game Pass, then don't subscribe. No harm, no foul. I get it. I understand, dude. Economy's bad right now. That's the main thing hamstringing Xbox. Don't listen to all these guys out here. If you come to this channel, again, full disclosure, I'm a pro Xbox channel. I bleed green, but I'm gonna tell you guys the truth. I'll keep it 100. Let you know what's going on out there, man. It's just the economy, and you see it all the time, dude. I share videos on my X channel of stuff that I keep up with YouTube when it comes to the economy. And I know, guys, I owe you guys a video. My politics videos, I'll be doing them. I know I owe you guys one of that because that's something I focus on the channel. And when the economy is bad, a lot of people start to notice stuff. Right. And since we're already talking about it, we'll jump into it right now when it comes to the streaming wars, right? Because I hear a lot of people out there saying, oh, streaming is getting bad. It's getting just like cable. No, it's not. No, it's not. Nowhere near close. Right. When I had cable, guys, I was paying like $100 for cable. Right, it got so ridiculous. I was paying almost $200, and the reason why I was almost paying $200 per cable is because a lot of people were dropping cable, and they were, this is why YouTube blew up. They were getting their entertainment from other places, right? And then what cable was doing, cable was forced to raise the prices because the cost didn't match up with their intake, right? So they were raising the price, right? Instead of so companies do that all the time, but there's levels, right, to how companies do that. Sometimes they cut the price. their service and cut back on services. Sometimes they lay people off, right? Sometimes they try and balance that equation of what comes in to what goes out, right? Like if you're losing subscribers, right, to cable, then you got to try and adjust. That's what movie studios should be doing right now. Something Disney hasn't learned or figured out. They're spending millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on these movies, and they're not getting any of that back in return. Even though these movies make 500 million, because of the amount of money they pay the actors, the amount of money they do for advertisement, all of this stuff, it doesn't hit a target of $1 billion. That's when they lose money, right? So that just keep that in mind when people talk about the streaming wars, because it's nowhere near as bad, right? Like I said, I was at one point I was almost paying $200 a month for that, and it wasn't worth it because I didn't really watch cable, right? And I'm talking like those jumps were coming like month after month, not even like a year. Then the next year goes a little bit more like what Game Pass did. Game Pass did it incrementally, right? Until this last time where they just jumped it up to 30, right? And so that was happening with cable, and that's why streaming took over, right? And then you guys also have to keep in mind that the content is what keeps streaming going, and there's a cost to that as well, right? So I know everybody's out there losing their mind about the advertising and all this kind of stuff. Look, I don't like that stuff either, but what I do is I choose not to participate with it. If you're a service and then you're going to give me ads, I'm out, right? Or if you offer me a tier and I think it's worth the amount of money, then I'll do that, right? Like I tell you guys all the time, what I do in my streaming is the stuff that I don't really use. I just cut them out. Like Paramount, I got rid of my Paramount because I only watch a couple shows. I'd rather have my Game Pass. And that's another thing you guys need to realize. Game Pass isn't just competing. I said this before on the channel. I'll repeat it again since we're talking about the topic. Now you can see why Game Pass went up to 29 because it's not just fighting for your money. It's also fighting for your time. Now, whether you think that's worth it a month, I totally understand. Some people don't think it is because it's how do you use the service. Like when I'm looking at Game Pass now, I put it on, and I've always done this. I put it on the same level as my Amazon account, my Apple account. Well, actually, I got rid of my Apple account. But when I had an Apple account, Netflix, Crunchyroll, I just got Haya, right? Like, what value does it bring to me? Am I utilizing it? And even if some streaming services has great content, like Paramount has great content, it's just that out of all the content on there, there's only a couple shows that I like. So if I had to choose between Game Pass and Paramount, I would choose Game Pass because I use Game Pass way more. I play games more than I do actually watching things, at least on that level, right? Like I said, I have Netflix. Netflix gives me a lot of the stuff I need, and then my side is Crunchyroll, so I watch a lot of anime. Right, those are the choices that a lot of people are making right now, right? And I push back on all this kind of stuff because the narrative when it comes to gaming, especially, right, and it comes to Game Pass, right, is Microsoft is greedy, Microsoft is this, Microsoft is that. Possibly could be greedy, man. Maybe they could have ate the cost. I 100% agree with that, but they chose not to. And now they want you to pay a premium price. And if you don't want to pay the premium price, just leave. Just go somewhere else. Go pay for your games, which a lot of you guys we know we won't. You guys won't do. Right? I've been saying this on this channel for the longest time. A lot of you guys are not gamers. You guys are casuals. That's just the reality of it. Right? That's what Game Pass exposed for a lot of people. Because in my day when we were growing up, if you provided a service like Game Pass, dude, everybody would have had it. Right? Now gaming wasn't as big as it is now. And that can be, I mean, you can look at it, and that cuts both ways, whether that's good or bad, right? But I know back in the day, dude, gamers would have gamed on that, right? Because there's no other place that you get so many games at the amount and the rate that and the time that you had to consume games. Right? Again, I'm going to bring it back to not just money, but it's time, right? That's the beauty of Game Pass. That's why people like myself who like it, we like it because we're gamers. A lot of these guys out there that are complaining about the extra $10. Hey, and I get it, right? Again, economy is bad. I get it, dude. But at some point in time, dude, just step off. It's not for you. Right? Go pay $70 for your games, which you will do because you guys only buy. As Unlimited did a great video. If you haven't checked it out, go check out his channel. He talked about the ratio of gamers and how many games they buy. There's only two games per gamer, and that's 100%. That's $140 right now. Right, or 160 if it's $80, right? So then that's why you buy the games like the Madden that has the replay value, or the CODs that have the replay value, right? So then you play your game. When you're done playing that game, then you jump online and then you complain. You complain about Microsoft. You complain about Xbox. You complain about Game Pass. Don't have the console. Never had the service. Or if you did have the service and you're one of these guys that are like, "Oh, I got rid of it because it's not worth it." You're not a gamer. That's. I'll keep on saying that on this channel, and there's nothing wrong with not being a gamer. There's nothing wrong, but you have to admit to yourself that that's not the level that you're at. Because if you're at that level, dude, like me, like I'd be using Game Pass all the time. I just played I finally played what is it? The Wars game, the one that just came on Game Pass. Rock, I forget the name of it. But I was playing it last night. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, right? But it was still fun, and it was in Game Pass, part of my service, right? I spent like an hour on it yesterday. Pretty cool, right? I try and be like Sega man. I try and play all the games that I can in Game Pass just to try them out. And a lot of times, if I like it, I'll just end up buying it. Deep Space Galactic, that game, and then they have a version where it's a top-down isometric game, and all you're doing is collecting stuff and killing enemies. And I don't know what it is. It's a top-down isometric, but you don't control some of the things that your player does. And I have that for the other game, like Titan Quest or whatever like that. That was in Game Pass, and I tried that out. Or no, I think I just bought that because I thought it was going to be a top-down, kind of like Diablo, but it's not. It has that isometric view, but you don't control a lot of the stuff. It's almost like a what do you call that? Like Hades, right? You get to a certain point, you level up, and then you get to select like if you want more speed, if you want to collect things faster, if you want to add more power to your gun, all this kind. Then you just pick it and you just try to make it through the levels. Addictive game, fun game, right? And it's in Game Pass, right? So, if you don't find value in that, then just go, bro. I mean, seriously, just step. At the end of the day, guys, let me check something real quick. At the end of the day, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Hold on, guys. Let me just check my. I'm looking at my stuff and I don't see it. Hold on. And if you guys want to, please. Hold on. If you guys want to, man, please use the chat. I'm bouncing back and forth right now, but I will be checking the chat. Hold on. Just want to make sure I got everything up. All right. But again, as long as the streaming thing, at least you have options. That's the thing I like the most. I'm very consumer centered, as you guys can tell if you're on my channel. So I like the options and the choices, right? And having the options of the choices. So if a company decides they want to do something and I'm not down with it, I'll step away. I have no problem doing that. You guys know I talk about comic books on this channel. Dude, I was a huge comic book collector, avid reader. Followed a lot of different comic book artists, writers, the industry in general. Of course, you guys know I'm a huge Marvel fanboy, right? That's the comic books I grew up reading, right? But then comic books aren't like that anymore, right? And they did that on purpose, right? They decided to go for different. Things change over time as well. I'm not trying to say that but they made the industry itself and those companies made specific choices when it comes to the material, the content, the economics of it all, and putting it out there. And then me as a person who's been collecting comics for pretty much my whole life, right? I kind of dropped off in my 40s, just because of various reasons. But it changed. So because they didn't offer me the things that I like, and then when I tried, they weren't, especially Marvel, they weren't offering me the things that I like. I would step in from time to time, but I was pretty much out of it in my 40s. And so I just stepped away and found something else to occupy my time. Right now, I'm reading manga. And it was hard for me because the way manga presents itself as a format, it took me a long time to get used to it, right? Just the way that it's formatted, that the whole back to front thing, the way the pages are and the way you got to go through the paneling, it's hard for somebody like myself who reads comic books. But I just kind of chugged away at it, man. And then they came up with some really good stuff. Like there's some anime that they put out that I like, but they never continued the anime. So to finish the story, right, you got to go to the books, which is pretty good marketing as well. But that's what I've been forced to do. And then I've gotten used to it, dude. I mean, I didn't think I would, but over time I've gotten used to it. And then they've kind of diversified their portfolio when it comes to these type of manga, right? They made it a little bit more user friendly for people like myself. Not all of them, and I'm not one of these guys that come into hobbies, and I want you to change everything for me. No, keep it the way it is because keeping it that way is how you get the content and how you get the quality. I'm not one of these guys that wants to change everything, okay? But I'm just saying, right? I mean, they've kind of diversified a little bit more where it's more palpable for me. It's easier for me, right, to enjoy it. And I've been ordering that. So where comic books, I kind of left that behind. Thinking about looking this stuff in Europe, the only thing is, it's all in their languages. Like France has a lot of cool stuff. If you guys are noticing when it comes to a lot of stuff coming out of France, right, like X3, stuff like that, dude, the quality, right? That's happening with a lot of their comic books as well. I follow a lot of people who show the paneling and stuff like that. Only thing is in French. So would they translate to English? I don't even know if the market's big enough to do that or if they can afford to do that. Anime is worldwide, right? And it's in its prime right now. I mean, it's at peak, right? Anime is just doing everything, anything and everything. It's kind of like K dramas, right? They can do it's classified as anime or it's classified as manga or it's classified as a K drama, right? But within in those genre in that genre alone, they can do multiple type of storylines, man. Bring they think all type of world building in all of in anime, manga, and K dramas. Like I watch K dramas. One might be historical, one might be modern, one might be about zombies, right? Some of them, like my favorite zombie is a zombie one in dynastic period, right? And then you don't really see that, right? And they're exploring and they're pushing limits and they're pushing boundaries and they're expanding, right? And just like what's happening with gaming in Southeast Asia and China, right? It's expanding, and I'm jumped on board. I'm all on board. I'm all on for the ride. That's what keeps me gigged into pop culture. You know, because since I've experienced so much already in my life, when it comes to pop culture, man, you tend to get jaded, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm just letting you guys know. Hold on, let me see. Dude, this thing is not working. I wanted to pull some stuff up. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. All right. So the first thing we want to touch on, man, let's do some housekeeping, man. Do a little bit of Xbox, right? Um, this has been driving me nuts, dude. And I chose not to say anything about it because it is what it is at the end of the day. And we're going to talk about COD. And COD has its share of defenders, but it also has its shares of haters, right? And it's always been that way, right? It's as old as time. I'll be honest with you. I've been playing COD since Modern Warfare 2, hardcore. Modern Warfare, I remember when it came out, but I was more Halo back then. Um, and I was not very good at shooter games. It took me a while to get into them. But when Modern Warfare 2 hit, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, dude, I was all in. Like, I played that game and I thought it was amazing. And I've owned every iteration of Call of Duty except for the one they had that released about a year or two ago, or maybe 4 years ago. It's one of the ones that they had out there. And the only other one I talk about that I did not like was Ghost. I didn't really care for that, even though I bought the game and I played it. Okay. It's just I didn't like the gameplay on that one and the maps. So other than that, though, been a COD head for forever, right? And as a person who's been in the COD community for a long time, I'm not like an ultra COD dude, but what I am is that I put in my time and I put in my money for the brand and for the culture of what is COD, right? So I can talk on this directly, man, because every year, right, or every 1 or 2 years, whenever COD decides to come out with a new game, right, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. In fact, I would say Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is probably the most positive COD that we had in a long time. And I mean, I'll talk about anticipation, the way people are talking about it. Of course, everybody has their reservations, man. COD is a huge brand, right? And once we got past the AKB thing with Microsoft, that was a whole nother element. And that's why I'm doing this segment of this podcast talking about COD directly, right? Because COD now gets an extra addition of hate, right? That it never did before. It just got the basic hate of the same usual complaints, which I didn't care about because everybody complains, but they buy it. I see that in my daughter when she plays Overwatch, and they went to Overwatch 2. And the developers of Overwatch promised stuff which never came into fruition, which ticked my daughter off, ticked a lot of their fans off, but they still bought the game, they still buy the skins, they still buy the battle passes, they still play the games. Right? Same thing with Bethesda. There's a core group of people, and it's a large group of people that will continually funnel money and fuel these behemoths. Right? This is why when all these ponies are out there, right? Because the ponies were the first to jump on board, even though they were pro COD, but then Microsoft owns it, the ponies jumped on and said it was dead, right? And then that's the level of hate that I talk about with Microsoft owning COD, right? And that's why I'm talking about this right now. If it was just COD, if Activision was independent, right, it would just be regular hate. But because Xbox owns COD now, owns Activision, right, they get that extra layer of hate, that pony hate, that media, I need my clicks and views hate, right? And everybody's talking about how bad COD is, and now everybody's putting up Battlefield. And let me put this out there really quickly. I said this on my channel. I'll do it for this segment as well. I have no problem with Battlefield. I play both, right? But if I had a choice, I would play COD. COD is a more arcadey one. A lot of the things that the problems I have with COD is the reason why I play it as well, right? I like that fast action, jump in and jump out. But of course, when you guys play Battlefield, man, it's more sim, as sim can get, right? You know what I'm saying? This is why with COD, I like Modern Warfare and Black Ops, right? Because they would they would have the differential. Basically, like have playing Forza and playing Forza Horizon. Right. So now I don't know. COD has totally shifted that. So I guess COD is, it's funny. That's why I kind of thought maybe Microsoft would buy EA, and then they would own Battlefield as well, and they would keep Battlefield like the real hardcore sim, and then COD and Modern Warfare could just do all this weird stuff that it's doing in there. And I'm guilty too, man. Like, look, dude, I tell you guys all the time. Um, like some of the skins that came out with Black Ops 6, I thought were stupid, and then they started doing the animated ones, the anime ones, or animated, not anime, animated. They have one anime. But basically cartoon characters, right? The cartoon skins. And I ended up buying those. So I'm a hypocrite myself, right? But that's part for the course, dude. You might not like something, but you still participate in it, right? That's my whole point, right? And I want to address this, man, because all of a sudden, dude, you have all these guys coming out, right? Talking about Battlefield now. It sold 6.5 million copies, right? All of a sudden, Battlefield's going to dethrone COD. Again, no skin in the game, right? But if we're looking at the facts and we're going back in history, Battlefield has always tried to challenge COD, and it's never been able to beat it. Right? It's the same thing as Netflix. Right? You have some of these services. Apple has great stuff. Prime, I hate Prime, but Prime has some good stuff. I watched some of their stuff. There's all these streaming services trying to get people to subscribe to them. But the king is Netflix. That's just the reality of it. Even though Netflix does stuff I don't like. There's a lot of content out there that I don't ever watch. Right? It doesn't matter. It's king. And that's what COD is. And Netflix is king because they're the first ones. Same thing like COD. COD was that one game, right? Because Halo was that game, but COD expanded it because normies could play it. Like Halo has its own style, and it's the people that play Halo love Halo, right? COD came along and made it for everybody, if I'm being honest, right? And that stood the test of time, right? And I'm not saying that that whether who wins Battlefield or COD, I'm just being realistic. Battlefield has never been able to dethrone COD. And the reason, again, I bring this up because a lot of people talking about Battlefield and you should know who they are, right? Because they bring up two things: sales, right, and they bring units, right? And we know the only group in gaming that does that, right, is the PlayStation fanboys, and that's why this is a big thing right now. Right? But I'm telling you right now, if you don't like Battlefield, then you still won't like Battlefield. Like if you don't like COD, you still won't like COD. Because Battlefield is Battlefield and COD is COD. They're two very different games, even though they're military shooters. Right? And again, no hate on Battlefield if you like Battlefield, because most people tend to like one or the other, like me. I can play both, but I would rock out with COD. That's just the way it is. Right? And for a lot of people out there that are excited about that 6.5 million copies being sold, that's great, right? Because how soon we forget what happened with Battlefield the last time, with the controversy they had when they tried to release, and then the president or whoever that dude was like, yeah, well, if you don't like our game and what we're doing, don't buy it. And then that franchise was on the brink of extinction. This freaking bird, man! I want to shoot this bird so bad. Hey, what's up, Mr. Kima? Battlefield 6 numbers on Steam are dwindling since launch. Yeah, it's always and it's like that. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Kima? It's like that, And so these people, again, right? And if you're a COD fan, and that's what I mean, if you're a Battlefield fan, and I'm excited for Battlefield fans, man, because again, like I said, right, what happened last time, dude, that's why they didn't make one for a while. And then kudos to the Battlefield team that was still attached to the older game, the last game that they had. They worked on it, dude, and they made it better. And they improved it and started listening to the fans because that's what it is at the end of the day. In fact, for me, it's like stop trying to beat COD and just be Battlefield. Same thing with COD, right? But COD doesn't do that because COD is king. And there's good and bad that comes with that as well, dude. Like the good for me is like when I jump on COD, right? Like if you have Game Pass, right? Just to let you guys know, right? If you guys bought COD, but if you have Game Pass, COD is a Game Pass game. Okay, you don't have to buy it. Or you can buy the $30. You can do however you want to cut it, man. Microsoft gives it to you, right? But if you use Game Pass and you want to get your 10 points in Game Pass 10, you want to get 10 points for playing games and 10 points for playing a Game Pass game, and I think you got to play a game for 15 minutes. COD is the answer. That's how I get my points every day. Just play COD, because I can play from a half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, usually an hour, right? And then you knock those two things out, and then you're getting big points, right? That simple, that easy. Because the current COD is in Game Pass. Actually, there's a lot of other COD games in there too. You can play any one of them and get your 15 minutes. I think you have to pay 15 minutes on both, on whether it's a Game Pass game or Xbox game, right? And then on top of that, right, you get the weekly, right? That helps with the weekly as well, right? And again, if you guys didn't know this, because I've been keeping track of it this week, they're giving you a lot more if you're a premium member. They are giving you more points. Right. I've been looking at it this week. So and whether you find value in that or not, because I'm already jacked in the ecosystem, I find a lot of value in it, and it's a lot easier. And to me, it's them telling me is like, look, we tried a lot of things with our Game Pass brand, and this is what this is the way that we're going down because of various reasons, economy being one. And but since you've been rocking out with me and you're still rocking out with us here, here's some bonus points. The only thing I don't like about the points, like I told you guys last video, is this weird thing where you got 6 points, 7 points, 1 point. I don't know, it's weird. I like holes and halves, right? Either be on a 5 or a 0. But it is what it is. I appreciate what they're doing. Yeah, so it's not surprising to Mr. Kuma because a certain person plays Battlefield. Now I haven't played the new one, but from what I'm gathering online about the Battlefield, it's a Battlefield game. So if you don't like Battlefield, you probably won't like this one. Same thing with COD. If you're more of a Battlefield guy and you don't like the arcadey nature, right? Like you unload a clip into somebody and they don't die and they can still stab you, that kind of stuff. All those irritating things about COD that people don't like. Like I threw a grenade on that I threw a grenade at a person right there. He blew up and he didn't die, so he could have the perk where is that exploded. But I'm like, dude, he's like right there. That dude should be dead. Like, you need to twerk that perk that they put on there. If you're like in blast radius of a centimeter, you should die. I don't care if you have that on or not. That's just me. There's little things like that people complain about COD. But guess what? I'm going to be playing once I jump off of this, right? I got to jump back on COD, right? Which I should actually do is I should play some other games, which I've been trying to. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. Number one about the streaming, dude. If you guys are, it's good to know. Like I know people have concerns about the advertising, and it's good to keep track of that. But just don't let it detract from what you have right now. Right? Enjoy it because it is good. You have options. You have choices. And if these guys start doing the advertisement thing, you don't like it, then bounce. That's what I do. There's a lot of other stuff I can do. That's why I brought out the other things that I subscribe to and other stuff. I'll just go where I number one, you can go where you appreciate it. I know a lot of people feel about that right now. I'm not one of those guys, but it's just I left my money to the talking, dude. If you're not gonna give me what I want, if I go to a restaurant, dude, and the food sucks, I don't go back. If I go to a restaurant and the service sucks, I don't go back. I don't care how good the food is, right? But I'm the consumer, right? Meet me where I'm at. Now, if you want to try and sell me something and I don't like it, I just bounce. That's what I do, guys. And that's why I'm not worried about this stuff. Because a lot of these companies they do stupid stuff, but at the end of the day, right? Because the economy is the way it is. People are looking extra. They're looking closely at all the stuff that they spend their money on. If I'm being honest, right? And again, like I say all the time on my channel, they're trying to find reasons not to spend money. Because that's what I do, and I've been like that pretty much my whole life. You really have to sell me something, but if I like it, dude, I'm all in. This is why I'm not crying about the $30 for the Game Pass, right? Because at $30, I still feel I get value. I'll still utilize the system. It doesn't change anything as far as time. It doesn't change anything as far as value, right? It still is what it is. Now, if they go up, maybe, right? But when you hear a lot of people talking, they're just talking about the price, right? But they're not talking about all the stuff that you get with it. And it might not be value to you, right? Like, but look, if you're at that point where you find no value in it, you're probably out the door anyway. And I'm not chastising anybody, dude. That's you, man. You make your decisions, dude. You choose what you want to do. You choose how you want to play, right? The only time I get into it with people is when they want to try and tell me what I need to be doing. Like these guys that do these videos, you need to teach these corporations. I'm like, but what if I enjoy it? Oh, then you're part of the problem. You're a bot. You're a this. You're a that. I'm like, bro, you know what, man? If you have a problem with that, dude, then you have to go out and make more money. Because at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to for a lot of people. It's money, and I get it, dude. Sometimes you're just gonna have to make tough choices. Everybody is. Dude, I was at the store the other day, man. I wanted to buy Nutter Butters. The wafers. Those things are like $8-9, dude. I was like, what? When did that happen, right? You think I'm gonna buy that? No. Ice cream is almost $10. I shouldn't be eating that stuff anyway. That's what I'm talking about, right? I see that stuff and I'm like, oh man, that thing's $8. Right? When I saw it, I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind having some milk because I got to drink more milk because of my health stuff going on. Right? That's one of the things I need to drink. Oddly enough, because for years people would be telling me, well, milk's bad for you. Now all of a sudden I need to drink it, and not drink like gallons of it, but I have to incorporate it into my diet, rotate it in because of the D12, the vitamin D that's in there that I need, right? And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll get some peanut butter wafers, man, get some milk, right? And then enjoy that. right? And then I go over there, the thing's like $9. Did I buy it? No. Right. Would I want it to buy it? Yeah, but I'm not gonna pay $9 for that stuff. So that's what's happening across the board with everybody. Nobody wants to pay more for their electric. I'm pretty sure everybody is, right? Especially in a state like mine, where where these guys are just horrible, man. Where the state that I'm in, right? They bought into the green BS, right? We gotta save the coral and we gotta do all this crap, dude, so they get rid of all the the oil factories, the power plants that run on oil, right? Which is a pretty important thing, right? So now we have brownouts here. They don't say it's brownouts. They say, "Oh, the service is down. We're testing this." No, it's because the grid is weaker because they went to sustainable, and they just keep on building. Where I live, dude, they just keep on building more condos, right? More homes, because it is needed, right? But they're building it and then they're selling it off, so people are renting them out, right? It's not for people that are here living on the island. There's people here that live on the island can't afford the housing, but they did that, and then now everybody's suffering, right? And then the funny thing about it is it's supposed to save money and it's supposed to save energy, and it costs more, right? Because at the end of the day, dude, you have to produce. That's just the reality of it. Nobody gets that. I don't know why, especially here. Now they're getting it now because they're complaining. They're complaining that their electric bill is $50 more, and then when energy costs go up, everything goes up, right? So my point being, it's economy, right? At the end of the day. So when you're looking at, that's why I feel sorry for Microsoft, because I'm telling you, dude, I talked about this in videos years ago when I talked about bulletproof, right? They were looking at it like increasing their subscription numbers, right? That was the key, right? And they were doing it for a while, right? But then it kind of hit a benchmark, and I kind of put the blame on Microsoft as well. Like I told you guys, man, I keep it 100 on this channel. They should have combated that. They chose to go the nice route, and they got smacked down for it, right? And it pushed this narrative about Xbox, right? That's still going on to this day, dude. That's why it's hard, right? Everybody's doing I hate Xbox videos under the guise of being consumer friendly, under the guise of like what's Xbox doing, But they just that's what get the clicks because they never dealt with the problems, right? That they should have dealt with 10 years ago, especially after the Xbox One launched. They should have dealt with all this stuff back then. They never did. I've talked about it ad nauseum on this channel. A lot of people think I'm nuts. A lot of people think I'm a prick, right? But I'm just being 100% honest. Microsoft should have dealt with that, or Xbox should have dealt with it. They didn't. When Microsoft got involved, Microsoft should have had Xbox deal with it, and here we are. This is why you have these. I have to do a video like this, right? I have to do a video like this talking about all this drama that's going on in the gaming streets, especially when it pertains to Xbox, because Xbox never gets a fair shake. It never has. It never will. And until Microsoft wakes up and deals with it directly, it'll always be a problem. If I was Satya Nadella, I would hire somebody to deal with these issues directly. I understand they're a $1 trillion company. They have a lot of money, right? But it's something that affects the brand. It does. That's the reality of it, and it shows in you Game Pass right now. Minimum 75,000 subscribers they should have. Right? Xbox Live went through the same thing back in the day, right? But that's what they needed to do, and they never did it. And it's unfortunate because it didn't have to be this way, if I'm being honest. So, but when it comes to streaming, dude, I love the options. That's the whole point of what I'm trying to say. Okay. And again, with the Xbox, since we're on the Xbox topic, the last thing we'll talk about is Xbox Ally SNX. Hold on, guys. I don't know what my neighbors do. They're probably doing another addition into the whole house that's illegal. But where I live, nobody cares. So let's go. Yeah, so again, since we're on Xbox, we'll just wrap it up with this. Xbox Ally SNX, right? It finally came out. It finally launched. And normally, when Microsoft deserves flowers, I give them their flowers, man. And probably one of the smartest things that they do, which some people have never liked, is Microsoft would give stuff to casuals, right? I didn't really have a problem with it, dude. It is what it is, man. It's not going to affect whether I buy something or not. But one of the things I did see, right, because a lot of the hate that Microsoft got from Game Pass and with the Ally coming out, because if you notice, Xbox does have a roadmap. Now they've kind of pulled back on that. Not saying that the roadmap, they changed the roadmap. The roadmap still exists. They're just not advertising it like they probably would because of all the hate they get. Because of all the hate they get, which again, just deal with this, Microsoft. And if you guys are asking me, okay, how would I deal with it? Easy. I would put somebody on the case that when somebody's leaking information to find out who that person is, and then I would pressure these dudes, especially these influencers, like who is this person, where to get information at, because they're not supposed to be leaking. So either the person leaking going to get in trouble, or the influencer is lying. Influencer is lying, which they probably are, and they need to be exposed. That's what I would do. I know some people think that's harsh. They should have the right to their opinion. You can have the right to your opinion, like I do on my podcast. But when you take opinion and then you start speaking like it's fact, right? Because that's what these guys do. They'll have an article because they get the same information you get, right? And if you bleed green, you're actually better than them because all the stuff that they say is not true, and you know that it's not true because you actually use the system and the ecosystem. The system as in the hardware, and the ecosystem as everything that's included with the hardware, all the services, whether it's Game Pass, the cloud, all that stuff, right? You're already jacked in. This is why you can tell a lot of these people are lying, or they're getting their information secondhand because they don't, they can't speak intelligently on it. Like if you watch this podcast, if you watch any podcast I do, or if you watch any of the other guys' podcasts, we'll talk on that. Like a lot of the stuff that they say don't make sense, right? And even IGN came up with an article. I didn't read it because I don't like IGN, but they're like, well, why is it's impossible for Xbox to get rid of their console, right? Now, guys like Hebot, guys like me, E-Rock, Unlimited, Tuck, and Sega Man, we know that, right? Because we have the console. We also know that there's a lot of people that use the console. We know that there's a lot of people that have the console that are subscribed to Game Pass specifically, right? This is why the S sold so well, right? And so, case in point, you shouldn't be listening to these people anyway. But if I was Microsoft, that's what I do. If I was Satya, that's what I would do. I would have somebody so they can get to the bottom of this because it's irritating. It really is, and it's affecting their brand. I talked about two things on this channel, right? I talked about, and I'll also focus on this. I'm talking about the culture of Xbox, and we're going to start talking about the brand of Xbox, right? Because a lot of gamers are brand gamers now, right? And for me, how does it affect me? If you're asking, it affects my bottom line because I spend a lot of time and money in the Xbox ecosystem, and I would like that to be protected. I would like my investment to be protected. That's what it boils down for me, right? I can ignore all these people. It's been kind of hard lately, right? But getting back to the point, right? Xbox did a smart thing with giving, like Justine has it, her sister. I can't remember her name right now. I watched both of their videos. Bored at work. I watched that guy for entertainment stuff, but he also does video games. So there's people that they gave it out. Trisha Hershberg, I think she got married though. Anyway, so like these people who dabble in this kind of stuff, whether it's tech, like they'll be at the Apple events and they'll do tech and entertainment, and they'll touch on entertainment, but they'll do like TVs and all that kind of stuff, electronics, right? And so Microsoft went ahead and gave them the Rogue Ally, which I thought was really good, right? Because you get that outsider perspective and how to utilize it. A lot of these guys are on the go. A lot of these guys are influencers themselves, right? They go to events, so this is when they play it the most, and they use it on vacation, right? They show themselves using the product and stuff like that, and they can break it down from in a lowest common denominator terms, right? Whereas in the gaming streets, man, and this is what pisses me off about a lot of these guys. Like on the entertainment side, the guys that I follow, I don't subscribe to probably the majority of them, right? Because on the entertainment front, they're spot on for the most part, right? And the stuff that they're not spot on, it's okay because on the entertainment stuff, I can kind of take their opinion seriously. But now these guys are cross-pollinizing, right? I talked about this in last book. Bring it back here. They're cross-pollinizing now, or cross-pollinization, right? And so they're talking about stuff that's not in their wheelhouse. And the reason why they're talking about stuff that's not in their wheelhouse, plus pop culture is that way now, right? They have people who are into pop culture that like them for their movies, but they're also gamers. So these guys are talking about gaming. Or they'll cross the streams when it's a Spider-Man game, right? Because it's Spider-Man, I watch the movie, I read the comic books, all this crap, right? And I told you guys on my channel that the way I consume my media, right? And this is why I don't fall for all this crap is Spider-Man to me is not the games, it's not the cartoons, it's not the movies. Spider-Man to me is the comic books, right? And I'm not saying I didn't like the movies or this. I didn't like. I participate in a lot of different stuff like that. But if I'm taking it back to the character, it's the comic books, right? Just like Thundercats. See, like you take a cartoon like Thundercats. That's how I know Thundercats as the cartoon, right? Then they've done comic books, right? They're thinking about doing movies and all this kind of stuff. They've done animated features. They've revamped the character. At the end of the day, it started off with that old cartoon, the original, that I participated in. That's how I look at stuff, right? And that's why I don't fall for these guys, right? When they talk about this kind of stuff, right? They're off, and they're wrong because they don't know the history of it, right? And so when they try and talk intelligently about video games, and they're not gamers, right? Why should you listen to them, right? And a lot of the stuff they talk, again, they're just parroting what they're reading in the media, and they do that for a lot of stuff, right? But you can disseminate what's true and what's true when you watch that because of what they love, and that's what it boils down to at the end of the day. There's very few people I can count on two hands that I know that do it all, right? And a lot of them is because they're older, like me, right? I'm an older guy, so I experienced this in real time. You know, of course, Hebot. I'll say Hebot. Hebot's one of those guys that can talk about a myriad of different things and be knowledgeable about it because he does collect and he does watch cartoons and he has read comic books and he's done all this stuff, right? He knows a lot about movies and then more than just the average stuff. A lot of these guys that are influencers on YouTube, they can't speak on it intelligently. Maybe one or two things because you only have so much time in a day, number one. And a lot of these guys are younger. Like a lot of the stuff, again, that I know, I just experienced it, right? Like I was there when the Dreamcast launched. I was there when the Xbox launched. Right? I was there when Nintendo first launched. I was there when PlayStation launched. I remember the day when PlayStation, the first time I saw the PlayStation in the store. It was at Good Guys, right? In Emeryville, in California. And the first impression I got of that, outside of being a Sony, and I love Sony back then, dude. I was Sony Electronics, that's all I had. That's it. I just bought Sony Electronics because of the quality and I just love their stuff. Right. So then I see the PlayStation and it's a Sony product. I looked at it and the first thing I noticed, because I'm a gamer first, right? Because this is me with my gamer hat on. Battle Arena Toshinden was playing. I was like, man, that looks like trash. Right? Because back then, right, they were still working with polygons. Right? And polygons was not a thing. Right? In fact, the narrative back then was how much polygons can a system push. You know, like people talk about P's and all that stuff now, or a couple years ago. Right? It's gone. That's how old I am. I've been through the iterations of all that stuff in gaming. So Battle Arena Toshinden, I looked at that and I was like, oh, that looks like trash. On top of the fact that I play games in arcades, right? So I wouldn't play Battle Arena Toshinden the way it looked and the way it played because, you know, it was a demo. So you got to play it. I thought it was trash. I was like, oh, this is horrible. Right? I can just go and play Virtual Fighter 2 at the arcade right around the corner. Just cross the street and go to the arcade and play all the games I want, especially the fighting games. Right? The hot fighting games at the time was like Samurai Showdown. I think that 2 or 3. I think it was 2. Virtual Fighter 2 just came out. You had your Tekken, right? You had all the VR stuff going on, right? That was the transition from 2D to 3D. That was a big thing at that time, right? So all of that stuff, I was there. So I have that experience, which kind of guides a lot of my thoughts and opinions when it comes to stuff like this, right? Where a lot of these guys, I'm just saying, man, I'm not crapping on you guys because you're younger, but I just have to point this out, man. A lot of you guys have to Google this stuff, or you guys have to read about it, or you have to read an article that tells you about it. And a lot of these people, that's why I hit on the gaming media all the time because they off, man. These gaming media guys don't know what they're talking about, and a lot of them are getting paid, and a lot of them have biases. And I bring this up all the time. I know you guys get sick and tired of me saying it, but I gotta say it. Right? A lot of it has to do with the fact that they grew up in a PlayStation era. Right? PlayStation 2 was probably their first console. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, that piece of trash. Right? Oh, let me see. Mr. Kima said, I had bought the Japanese version of Battle Arena Toshinden. The controllers were horrible. Yeah, dude, it was just like, and in fairness, Mr. Kima, I was playing in arcades mostly, so you couldn't. There was no 1-for-1 back then, right? I mean, I think Virtual Fighter 2, when it came on the Saturn, was the closest you could get. And the only reason I love the only reason, like as far as graphically, it was kind of there, not really. But the great thing about Virtual Fighter 2, having it when I owned it for my console, is I got to practice, right? And then I could learn all the moves. Because back in the day, remember, dude, you remember, Mr. Kim, when you went to arcade, dude, it was brutal, right? The person that won a lot of the times, that knew how to do all the moves. And when I found out this arcade I was going to, man, the dude that worked there, they had gotten all the moves. They had a book, and it showed you how to do every single move. So it was him and his friends, right? It was him. We called them the five, right? These guys. These guys were the best at Virtual Fighter. But what ended up happening is I got a Saturn, and then I started playing at home, and I was like, oh, that's how you did the move. And then I went back, and I was just I was like destroying all of them, except for this one kid, and he played with Akira, and he was good, dude. He was good, man. That dude was the real deal. In fact, he went to Japan and played in tournaments, and then he came back. And you know what? He was kind of a punkish kid. Not that I cared, right? Because, I'm just like, whatever, right? But he used to just douse people, man. He had the what do they call it? The five hit combo that would just destroy anybody. Akira had that move, but it was hard to pull off. But he could pull it off without even thinking, man. I hated playing him, dude. When you played him, dude, that match wouldn't last long. But over time, dude, because I knew the moves and then I like certain characters, I was able to do. I got really good at it. And then out of the 5 guys that was there, dude, I doused 4 of them. The best one was when I beat the dude who played Jackie. He played Jackie all the time. But a lot of these guys played in patterns, right? And that's what you realize when you played. You just didn't know how to overcome the pattern because you didn't know the counters and the moves. But once I got that game at home and I started practicing, dude, this one, he was cocky too, man. And he played with Jackie. He was good with Jackie, but he wasn't that good. And then I would use Jeffrey. And then he would anytime he would play anybody with the big characters, the characters are slower. But if you knew how to counter, you'd be great, especially with Jeffrey. And so he would play with Jackie, and then man, I was just catching him left and right, man, knees, things. And then the one thing he loves to do, there's like that 3 combos where he can just count, like he can go low knee or go low. He can go low back spinning fist, low or the sweep. And so he would do that way too much, man. And then with Jeffrey, dude, it was awesome because he would do that. I knew he was. I see it coming a mile away, dude. I would block it, and then I just walk up to him. And what I like to do, because there's a couple things that Jeffrey can do, but what Jeffrey likes to do, like I just walk up to him, and Jeffrey grabs him, like takes his hand, just face palms him, lifts him up, and shakes him in the air, and just slams him to the ground. I beat him that way, dude. He got pissed. He's like slammed his stuff and then walked away. Right, I was just laughing. Right. Anyway, sorry, I'm going way too far down memory lane on that. Right. Yeah, but I get it, Mr. Keeman, man. Because when I played it, it was what it was. You know what I'm saying? Back at the day, dude. And that's why it wasn't impressive in a sense, right? Because if you're a gamer, you did a lot of different stuff with gaming. Kenneth Williams, what's up, brother? I grew up, played everything NES, SNES, GameCube, Wii, Sega, Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, PS1, PS2, PS3, Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One. Yep, I had all of these too. Kenneth, I had all of these, and I played everything. Right. And the funny thing about this, now some of you guys might think this is a stretch. This is what Game Pass is right here. All in one. Not by brand name or by company, but everything that you played from NES all the way up to the current Xbox era or current generation, all of that stuff's in Game Pass right now. There's so many different games, so many genre of games. You have short games, long games, RPGs, action. You have every single thing in Game Pass right now. That's what Game Pass is, exactly what you put in. Game Pass is NES through Xbox One. That's what it is. So for me, trying to process people not liking Game Pass but saying that they're gamers, I can't put those two together. And then when you have a media that is not gamers, and when you have influencers who shouldn't be talking about games, talking about it, they should just stick to their movies or their anime. Right? These guys are over here talking, and they have so much bias, dude. They can't even figure that out. Like if you love anime, and if you're a weeaboo, right? Probably Xbox wouldn't be your console of choice, right? Of course, you would probably go with Nintendo or PlayStation. Probably Nintendo, right? Because Nintendo makes the stuff that'll be right up your alley. And then credit to Nintendo guys, man. I really don't have a problem with them, man. They stay in their lane. That's cool. But a lot of these people, man, they're just casuals, right? So because they like something, or they're into Japanese culture and current Japanese culture, current Japanese pop culture, of course they gravitate to a certain thing, right? And that's understandable. But what I don't want to hear from them is them trying to tell me how I should consume my media on Xbox or what Xbox or Microsoft should do. If you don't like it, dude, just step. Kenneth says, my first fighting game I played and owned Killer Instinct SNES. Yep, classic, dude. And my third fighter was Virtua Fighter 2 and 3. Yeah. So when I was in the arcade, dude, I remember the day that Virtua Fighter released. And I think Tekken released around the same time, or was out before. But Virtua Fighter was the one I gravitated to, probably because it was a Sega game. I was a huge Sega fan. I was playing everything Sega. Back then Sega had actual cabinets, right? With their games, right? Which I love. Right, that whole experience. So when Virtua Fighter hit, dude, all I remember is I went to the arcade and there was a big crowd of people. Right, you know how normally you walk into an arcade and there's a cabinet. You can't really see the cabinet, but you see like about 50 people surrounding everywhere, trying to, some guys trying to look over other guys, all that crap, right? And then I walked over there and I asked my friend was there. He's like, "Oh, dude, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh man, dude, this is the new game, Virtua Fighter. You ever seen it?" I was like, "No, dude, what is it?" And then look, dude. Back then we didn't have internet like that, dude. Like how you guys can find out everything right away. This is how you found out stuff. Just like, and I'll talk about this later because we'll talk about rock music in a little bit, or just music in general, right? It's just like back in the day, you found out about a band, stuff about a band, whether it's true or not. Even movies, dude, you found out from fans or other people that went to see the band or went to see a movie. You know what I'm saying? This was all word of mouth, dude. This is what kept the community strong. Right, this is because people are really fans, right? And if you're a fan of something, right, you would tell somebody, another fan, right? So to do with someone, oh yeah, man, this, and he was talking to me about it. Oh, that sounds cool. So finally, I got to get close enough to where I could see it, And it blew me away, man, because at the time, dude, most fighters were in 2D. They were more 2D. And yeah, games like Pit Fighter that try and make it look 3D and stuff like that. But it was, there was nothing like it. And the same thing came with Tekken, right? That these were game changers of its time. There's stuff that we take for granted now. And in fact, it's kind of funny. We're going retro, right? We're going back to 2D, which I have no problem with either. But the Killer Instinct I like the most, though, if I'm being honest, Kenneth, is 2, right? Because you remember with the boxer, you could punch the dude and his face would get slammed against the monitor. That was cool. And that was Nintendo, right? Back in the day. Yeah, I remember, man. That's another one that dominated. Mr. Kima says Sega and Capcom were in competition to see which one had the best artwork on the arcade cabinet. Yeah, that's when you could go into an arcade and they actually had cabinets made specifically for the games that you were playing. And then, but then also remember, Mr. Kima, that spawned those cabinets where you could tell there was another cabinet, right? But because the game was hotter, right? So like, I was just tasting Point Fighters History, which I love that game. I actually liked it. I was a fighting game fanatic, dude. Like how I love zombie games now. But like, I would play anything fighting game. I don't care how bad or good it was, right? So I actually like Fighters History. And so Fighters History, man, had a ton. I think there's this arcade in San Francisco, and they had about like 15 cabinets, but everybody was playing Mortal Kombat 2, and was it? I think it was still Street Fighter, but it was the Championship Edition was out, and so everybody was playing those two games, right? So what they did for Street Fighter was the most popular one, and they didn't have because people stand around. So if you have an arcade, man, you're losing money. So those older cabinets that weren't doing so well, dude, they just put the Street Fighter thing in there because it has a button and six buttons and a joystick, right? And so you would see it have like the cabinet would be Fighters History, but the game would be Street Fighter if you play it on it, and they would line it up with the rest of them. Nobody cared, dude. People just wanted to play. Those are good times, man. Good times. Hey, what's up, brother Hebot? Plus, Virtua Fighter was the very first 3D polygon game. Oh yeah. I remember that, dude. Because nobody thought that was possible, right? And then and you know what sold it though? Because Virtua Fighter looked the way that it did, and Tekken did look the way that it did. But when Virtua Fighter 2 came out, that's when people were like, "Dude, we're going next level." And then of course with 3, everything else went on. And I remember those times, guys, because that set a standard in gaming that built a foundation that you're enjoying games that you have today. But yeah, welcome, brother. Just doing a quick podcast. Kenneth says Virtua Fighter was the grandfather of 3D fighters because it was traditional martial arts. Yes, it was. And the kind of cool thing about it had a little bit of mystique to it because you would just play it kind of straight up and up, and then you see somebody pull a move off, and they're like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And for the most part, right, people were pushing buttons, so they didn't even know how that happened, right? And then you just have to practice and take your lumps, right, and then you figured it out. Like for a lot of Wolf Hawkfield's moves, it wasn't that hard once you figured it out, and he had a lot of cool counters too. And Pi too, like with the wrist grab, when people used to attack, especially because people used to play with Cage or Kaji, right? So I say Cage, but they played with Cage Maru, right? So he'd always come at you, and then with Pi, you can always counter his. Because a lot of people just come straight, right? Straight line of sight, and then you just catch their thing and flip them. But then he had a cool throw where he would come up like ninjutsu, right? So he'd come up under you, grab you by the leg to flip you. I thought that was always cool. So there's a style, 100%. There's a style of Virtua Fighter. That's probably why I liked it more. Nothing wrong with Tekken, man, but Tekken was just above and beyond me, if I'm being honest. I had my friend was probably one of the best Tekken players I've ever seen, dude, and he was really good at Tekken. Dude, and I used to love watching him play because I like King. Because I was I'm a wrestling fan, dude. You watch King, man. King has all the moves, dude. He did some crazy stuff. But I could never change the combos like he could. Just wasn't fast enough. But yeah, shout out to Virtua Fighter, man. I can't wait for the new one to come out. Hebot says Namco simply copied everything Sega did as far as the 3D polygon video game. Hence, that is how Tekken was born. Tekken came out about a year later. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Thanks for clearing that up, Hebot. I wasn't sure if they were about the same time. But I knew when Virtua Fighter came out, bro. I knew that was huge, man. The crowds on that, right? Because a lot of people that played that they watch a lot like me. Like we watch martial arts movies, right? So what is better? That's back in the day, dude. When you had martial artists was so. It's not like how you have Ultimate Fighting now, where everything is kind of mixed martial arts is exactly that, mixed martial arts. Right? It's kind of transformed the martial arts, right? Because you take a lot, especially when the UFC first started, right? You had actual disciplines and styles, and all of that went out the window, right? When certain things didn't work, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a street fight, it's brawling, and of course it became a sport, But back in the day, dude, like people would wonder what could karate be Jeet Kune Do, right? Is Kempo really as deadly as people think it is? Stuff like that, right? And so then you have a game like that where people can kind of put that to the test. I always had this idea called Dreambout, like Virtual Fighter. I wanted them to do a Dreambout where you would have the actual characters of martial artists, whether in the entertainment industry or actual martial artists, where you could have Jean Claude Van Damme fight Steven Seagal, right? And you could have what's his name back in the day? Yeah, we could have Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, right? You could have Billy Blanks, uh, Benny the Jet, Raquidi, right? There's a lot of martial artists that was famous at the time, and then what made them even more popular was they would cross over into movies, right? Just like how you have a Jackie Chan and stuff like that. And in fact, some of the characters you look at in these fighting games back then were actually, you know, they were meant as either tribute, right, to these martial artists, and then sometimes the martial artists of a particular movie they were in, right? And so what I wanted them was like to take that, but actually use actually use the actual martial artists, like the people that I talked about, right? And then what you could do, right, is like especially if it went to a home console, right, you could actually unlock like Steven Seagal, right? I've watched all his movies. He's known for his aikido, right? But of course, it's the type of aikido that he practices, right? And then you could actually have like the different characters he plays in movies, right? And then you can use that as skins. Anyway, I had all this big thing about it, and I thought it would be a cool idea if Sega did that. Sorry, let's see. Kenneth says Virtua Fighter 4 Evo. I played heavy back then with quest mode. I mean, yeah, yeah. I was playing Brad a lot, dude. Of course, I always played like Wolf Hoffield is my favorite, but he's been changed so many different times, man. My favorite one is probably two, but three especially, because I had all his combos down, and you can set people up for a lot of stuff, dude. Especially with a spinning kick. I used to like to catch people with the bull rush, right? So when people used to come in, he does that lunge back, especially when you're playing against strikers, right? They try and come forward, I just lunge back, and then by the time they finish the combo, you slip behind them, and then off of that, dude, you could do a lot of different things. Like you could push them away and do like a bulldog. You could do a suplex, right? You could turn them and then come forward, do belly to belly, like all that stuff. I used to love doing that. But I'm old now, guys, and I don't have the same reflexes. Kiba says Virtual Fighter is what changed everything in the 3D landscape of video games. Yeah, yeah. Sega did a lot of that stuff, man. That's one thing I love about Sega. That's why I like Xbox and Microsoft because they do the same thing Sega does, except they have money. Sega was taking a lot of risks back then, and they deserve their flowers, man, because Sega set a standard and laid a foundation. Again, I like to say that all the time when it comes to Sega. That's why I still rock out Sega, dude. Mr. Kima says Namco Polygon arcade board was called the Polygonizer. Polygonizer board, really? I did not know that, Mr. Kima. Thank you. That's case in point to what. Wait, where did he about say it? Namco simply copied everything Sega did, and that was the thing back then. Look, guys. I mean, and these are a lot of the Japanese companies too. Namco's Japanese, and so is Sega. Yeah, he was agreeing with you. Yes, Mr. Kim, which was the basis hardware for PlayStation 1. Yep. And then Richard Kima says Retro Fighter 3 in the arcade had the biggest visual upgrade over any Polygon fighter. Yeah, 100%. Right. And the reason why, guys, it was like that is because, again, the reality based type of fighter that it was, right? Because they would, like, if you want, like, they had a sumo wrestler, right, in Retro Fighter 3, and they wanted it to look like a sumo. They wanted him to play like a sumo, like his movement and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of Sega's forte, right? That's why I liked that's why I loved Shenmue so much, right? They were trying to take like something that was very um, artistically driven. Because Yu Suzuki, man, I remember when he was putting out prints for that stuff, dude, it just looked amazing. And it's a game, but it's also an artistic vision, and I think that's super cool as well. So what do we got? Hold on, guys, gotta look this up. Okay, so then we got, yeah. Hold on. Yeah, but just getting back to the topic at hand. Sorry, guys. So with the Xbox Ally S and X, right? It looks like it's surviving the hate, right? It was pretty rough in those first couple of weeks. Again, I told you guys when it comes to the I have nothing against the Xbox Ally. It's nothing personal. It's just my health condition. I can't really use that type of device. I'm thinking about getting it for my daughter next year for her birthday. I think she would like that because she plays so much stuff on her phone, and a lot of the, or not a lot, but of several of the games that she plays on her phone is kind of crossed over to console, which means it'll be. I think it'll be better for her because she can play it. She can play it on her, with a bigger screen, more comfortable for her hand and stuff like that. I can't play it at all. That'll hurt my neck, guys, which will affect my spine and my shoulders. So that's not even par for the course for me. But yeah, I appreciate that they did that, dude, because that helped. And what I mean by it is, like I was saying earlier, I'm really glad that they did that. That they put the casuals out there, right? Because then you get them chiming in, and then now people are actually talking about it that own it. You have people doing videos now, right, that are stepping up to it, not the usual suspects that I follow. I see a lot of people putting videos. I see a lot of people like Hebot, our brother Hebot, went to Walmart, right, to report on all the fake news that's out there about these people pulling their stuff, right? This is why I can't stand these influencers, right? Because they're putting out false information. But shout out to the Xbox community, especially guys I've never seen before, but I watched their videos and they're doing the legwork, right? They're doing that guerrilla journalism, like our brother Hebot went and actually showed what's going on in these stores. And for me, I don't worry about it. Again, guys, everything for me boils down to the economy, right? Because it's not just Xbox games that are doing this, right? You can go into Walmart and see that in any PlayStation or Nintendo. You can walk around the corner and look at the soda and it's different. You can go to the frozen, like if you go to Target or the Walmarts and the Targets where I'm at, they sell everything, right? So then, like one time I wanted to go there, I was actually looking for this chair for my daughter, and they had no chairs in stock. Right? This is an economic thing, guys. It's not a gaming thing. This is why I don't lose my mind over it because these guys are trying to make it something that it's not. And again, you guys have to put yourselves out there, right? And you guys have to know, right? If you guys bleed green, man, this should not be a problem for you at all. Right? If you bleed green, the biggest problem you should have, or the thing that you should think about is how is gaming gonna be afforded moving forward. That's a reality right now because cost of everything just keep on going up. And again, I'll do the economy video. I don't want to do it here. Get derailed. But yeah, but that's what it is. It's just a lot of people spreading false information and a lot of people would hate, right? So at the end of the day, dude, it's good to see that. Looks like the Xbox Ally, I've seen several reviews, right? Some people might have some issues with it, but nothing really bad. And they're saying that it's a great system. Plus, one of the great things, and Hebot talked about this, and I think it was Unlimited as well, and I think Dia said this as well. They basically said that, all of these handhelds cost a lot of money. Now, since I don't really deal with handhelds, right, the only thing I see is how much they charge for a Nintendo Switch. I saw that, right, and people lost their minds about that. So I wasn't surprised they lose their mind about the Series S and the Ally S and X, right? But then I did not know anything about the other uh, handheld devices because I have no interest in buying one, right? But then when they dropped the knowledge, I didn't know these things are upwards of 1,000, 1,400, right? And so what Xbox and Microsoft is doing, they're like, again, they're doing this across the board. Like, this is a premium product. We're going to charge you a premium price. And if you don't like the price, guys, don't buy it. See, it's that simple. Just do what I do. Play your Xbox, right? And you'll be fine, right? I have my console. I have my multiple consoles, and I just play when I feel like playing games. And again, I say this all the time in the channel, but it has to be said. When it comes to games, the most important thing about what we do here, right, and what we talk about, Xbox cannot be touched. Still, all the stuff, all this fake outrage that they try and drum up and stuff like that is just that it's all fake. Again, Microsoft does not share anything directly with people, right? Unfortunately, they have to talk on certain things, but again, that's on them. They should be doing this. Talked about that earlier. So let's move on really quickly because I got to wrap this up, guys. Appreciate everybody that's here, though. If I do these podcasts, guys, I'm gonna have to keep it on a timetable. That's why I don't do a lot of the podcasts because I like when the brethren get together, we all talk about stuff. But I am pressed for time. So let's see. I guess the last thing we can talk about is more pop culture stuff, guys. And this is hitting me a lot of different ways because I am older than most of you dudes out there, right? And I've been around for a while. And when it comes to pop culture in general, I've seen it all basically, and I've participated in most of it, if not all of it. And it's kind of sad to see, man, because I'm at an age, man. I was born in '73, guys, so I'm in my 50s. So being born in '73, man, I've seen a lot of stuff when it comes to pop culture happening. And I'm talking across the board, man. I don't even include sports. all this kind of stuff, man. And what I've noticed right now is that a lot of things that I grew up with has either gone away, right? Either through time or money or whatever reasons, right? Things change over time, things progress, right? So some of the things I enjoyed as a kid or even as a young adult have gone away. Interesting enough, a lot of this stuff is coming back into vogue because of the current generation of people, the Gen Z, and the younger Gen Z, Alpha or whatever they're calling them, whatever. And so they're actually kind of going backwards. I see that with my daughter and my son with the things that they're doing, and I find that kind of interesting. And I think it's cool. I think it's cool. You guys know I'm a nostalgia freak, and so let me turn this off real quick, guys, because it's lagging. Um, but I'd be remiss to say, man, that I mean I love seeing it, but at the same time, I'm also like glad that we're pushing forward. But what I like to see is an amalgamation of the two, which is what's happening, right? Which I think is pretty cool. But the sad part about this, man, as time moves on, things fade away, man. And, things pass, and that's kind of what I'm gonna do right now. We'll just wrap up the show with this, right? I don't want it to go too long. But man, we are losing a lot of people that when I was growing up were famous and some even more so were icons of the industry and across the board. I'm talking gaming, entertainment, music, tech, right? And the reason why is because they were big influences on me because when I was growing up, they were the people that I looked up to, and they were the people that were changing things, right? So case in point, someone an artist that passed away. I know a lot of you guys won't. I mean, unless you're my age, a lot of you guys won't know who this probably is, but it's Ace Frehley, right? He's the lead guitarist for Kiss, and I feel kind of bad because what had ended up happening. This is what the news said, right? Because he passed away, and I didn't know he was as old as he was. You know what I'm saying? I know he was an older person, but sometimes I don't even realize how old I am. In fact, some people tell me they don't even realize that I'm that old. Like when some people talk to me, they talk to me, especially people I work with, they talk to me like I am younger. Like how we talk to like how we talk to Unlimited, how E-Rock, he bought me and Sega Forever. I talk to Unlimited because Unlimited is a younger guy, right? And so the way we talk about Unlimited, that's how some people talk to me at work, right? Because when they look at me, they don't think I'm as old as I am. And the way that I act too, right? Because I do a lot of stuff that's, I feel like I still have a lot of energy, or when I do stuff, I just do the stuff I normally do. So there's no change in that. But it hits, man. It hits. It's been hitting me for a while now, a couple of years, because a lot of the people that I grew up watching and following and knowing who they are just because of their popularity, um, they're passing away. Right? And I'm not just talking about like the big names. There's some big names like Ozzy, lost Ozzy, right? This year. But I'm talking like somebody like a character actor from a '70s show that I grew up watching, because my dad or my uncle or my grandmother was watching a show. Um, like there was a guy from a soap opera in General Hospital that passed away. I don't really know much about him, but I know who he was because I recognize his face. Now the picture they showed, even though he was older, I knew who he was because I knew General Hospital. I knew he played a character in General Hospital, right? And so when they showed the younger picture, I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's that actor, right? And he had passed, right? And I see that happening. Like, dude, I'm being honest, man. Like over the last 7 years, you'd see it. I see it every once in a while. But now, dude, now that I'm getting up there in age too, man, I'm seeing it even more and more. Right? I mean, I'm talking like every month I see somebody that I knew that passed away. Right? And again, a lot of these guys aren't ultra famous, but if you grew up in a time period like Hebot will attest to this. I know Hebot can attest to this. Like the way we consume media, especially growing up, being in front of, being latchkey kids. Yeah, I'm Gen X, so is Hebot, right? So most of the guys in the group are Gen X, right? So your parents will be working, and then you'd be at home having to take care of the house, make your own dinner and stuff like that, and you watch a lot of television, right? Like I could say a phrase like "sit ubu sit," and guys of my generation will know what that exactly that means. Younger generation would have no idea what that means, right? And when I say "sit ubu sit," in fact, I'll go look it up. I'll go look it up for you guys, dude, since I'm doing this because I know the video's out there. And sorry, I know I could have prepped this, but I'm just doing this off the cuff, guys. So I'll share this really quickly with you guys. Let me share this real fast. Oh, okay. Share screen. There we go. So right here, guys. Let me enlarge this so you can see. So I know Hebot and I know E-Rock and all the guys that are my age in the group will definitely be able to speak on this, right? because Ubu is Ubu production, right? And so at the end of certain shows, right, as the most popular shows we would watch, I think it's 18. There was two things. There was Stephen J. Cannell Productions, right, and he did a lot of TV shows during the prime time, the peak of primetime television, right? And so what would happen is you watch a show, and then this will pop up. Let's see if I can play it.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.
So those were the outros of back in the day, right? That people would know about, right? And that's definitely something of my generation. And all of this stuff, like I was saying earlier, it's moved on. You don't really see this anymore. You kind of see something like this with anime every once in a while, but not on this level. Because television was such a big deal, man. People don't realize how big the television industry was back in the day. It exists today, but not on the level that it was, dude. People used to live and die by a TV guide. And I was poor, man, so we never bought TV guide at the grocery store. But I had friends who had TV guide, right? And people would highlight, circle, right? Because that's where the TV schedule was, and that's where you could. And then TV guide would have certain issues that would come out, right? And TV guide was like a small little compact thing, right? But talking about the upcoming shows and stuff like that, it was very exciting for that time because that's how we consumed media back then, right? But a lot of these dudes, man, I hate to say it, man, a lot of them are passing away, and maybe I'm saying this right because this is the in memoriam section of pop culture that I'll probably be talking about now. But I mean, it also questions my own mortality because I'm up there in age, like everybody does. You know, if you're younger and you come across this video, that's what it is all about. You know, you feel certain, everything goes through cycles, right? And then of course, when you're younger, man, you feel a certain way. But by the time you reach my age, a lot of that stuff changes. That's why I try and tell people, the way you feel, and I tell this to my kids all the time. It's like, look, just think about it this way. The way you feel about something now, think about how you feel about 10 to 15 years from now, or 5 to 10 years from now, right? That stuff does matter. So let me bring this up real quick. I'll try and make this as enter who passed in 2025. Yeah, so let me share this real quick. I'm pretty sure you guys can see this. I'll just blow it out for you guys real quick. Let me use my arrows. So just here's three right here, man. I forgot about Malcolm Jamal Warner. Right? And then of course you have Robert Redford, who's an icon of acting, man. I've watched so many of his movies. In fact, before Microsoft killed their store, right, they had put up a lot of 70s movies. And that's what I was doing. I was going back and buying these old 70s movies. And there's this one called Condor, right? I think that's the name of it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm pretty sure that was the name of it. But that's a movie I never watched with Robert Redford. He's in it. And I bought it just because he was in it. Because that's the way it was back then, dude. That's the star power that these guys have. And he's a great actor. I mean, and look, dude, I know politics is a big thing right now, but I'm just being honest with you, dude. Guys like him, Paul Newman, right? A lot of these guys were true icons of acting, right? So these guys were the draws for the box office because that's what it took back in the day, dude. Like this is why people like The Rock can become famous, and I'm not crapping on The Rock. I know people have been taking shots at The Rock lately. I don't know what that's all about. I haven't really dug into it. But I'm saying, like, there's people that are celebrities now that would never have been celebrities back in the 70s because you needed that star power. And you needed to push box office on your name alone, right? And this is why people like still look at Tom Hanks because Tom Hanks was a big box office draw. Julia Roberts at one time was a big office draw. But when you see somebody like Paul Newman or Robert Redford, these guys, man, they were huge. Jackie Gleason back in the day, you know what I'm saying? And so Robert Redford was one of the biggest ones. He was so big. I'll put it to you this way. You guys know I'm a Marvel fanboy. One of my favorite, my most favorite Captain America is, of course, First Avenger. But Winter Soldier was awesome as well. And Winter Soldier was like it had kind of made some. It had garnered credibility for itself because they had cast Robert Redford, right? Because when you're Marvel and you're making these movies, and Marvel again, the way Disney does things, they're making it for mass appeal, right? This is why some comic book guys like myself have problem with Marvel movies and stuff like that. But it is what it is, right? And they're trying to do a lot of things, and for the most part, especially phases 1 through 3, they pulled it off, right? Because when you're trying to give a lot of people something, this is why you cast a person like Robert Redford to give your production bona fides. And the reason why they casted him and it worked so well in Winter Soldier is because he's known for a lot of one of his most favorite movies is All the President's Men, right? That was a big movie back in the day, right? And so with him being in Winter Soldier, right, Captain America Winter Soldier, yeah, dude, I'm getting old. See, I'm showing my age, but because he was in there, man, and the turnplay in the show, and he has that great scene with Samuel Jackson, right? It works because he has that way of like Robert Redford. Like I said, he has those bona fides, man. When he plays these characters, he plays these roles, right? You feel it. Like my favorite movie with him is this movie called Blue Breaker. Actually, again, I bought that on the Microsoft Store as well. Oh, okay. Anyway, let me stop talking about that. It's making me mad. So I bought that on the Microsoft Store as well. But Brubaker is one of my favorite movies. And what he does, he's an undercover. He works for the state, I believe. He goes undercover into this prison, right in the South, and then he exposes the prison, and he becomes the new prison guy. But it's a great movie, man. It has David Keith, not David Keith, Keith David. Wait, David Keith? Or Keith David. I always get those two names mixed up. David Keith uh, is in the Halo dude, and then Keith David. Yeah, it is Keith David. Keith David from Firestarter fame. So anyway, he's in that movie. There's a lot of people that you'll notice in Brubaker if you watch again, coming from my time period, of course, right? And a lot of these guys are passing away. And then Diane. Oh wait, hold on. That's Diane Lane, right? Oh, Connie Francis passed away too. I forgot about that. Yeah, I said Ozzy. Diane Keaton. Oh my gosh, dude. Diane Lane's the other actress. Oh. Whoa, I didn't know D'Angelo passed away. Oh, he had pancreatic cancer. October 14th. See, he was 51 as well. Dude, I remember when his song hit, dude. I was in the Navy when his song hit. And when his songs came on, dude, you could not touch that radio. The YN3 that was in the office where I work, man, you touch that radio, she cut your head off. She loved this dude. I had no idea he passed away. Man, this is kind of hard. Yeah, Jane Goodall, right? She's the person she's known for working, do all the documentaries where she worked with the apes. Yeah, I'm not sure who Joshua Allen is. Oh, Rudy Johnson, dude. Cincinnati Bengals. He passed away too. Sonny Curtis. I'm not sure. Some people I know. I won't know, guys. Yeah, Robert Redford. Yeah, Ricky Hatton. That was sad. I heard that he had hung himself. Polly Shaw. Yeah, Polly Holiday. I used to watch. So I remember Alice when it was on TV, and then I used to watch it all the time in syndication. So her famous catchline, of course, was, "Kiss my grits." And the way she said it was awesome. It's funny because the character she played, she was older, but when you actually saw her just regular, she was actually younger than what the character looked like, and that was done on purpose. Wow, Giorgio Armani passed away. I did not know that either. Don't know that person. Oh yeah, Graham Greene. I'm a huge fan of Graham Greene, dude. I love Dances with Wolves. And then he did a lot of other movies as well. One of my favorite movies is with him and um, Mel Gibson. They what's it called? Maverick. Maverick, right? And James Garner's in that movie too. Man, it's a great movie, man. But there's this part where Maverick's trying to get money from Graham Greene's character because they're friends, and Maverick's just one of those movies that never takes itself seriously, and that's one of those movies, just like A Knight's Tale, Galaxy Quest, movies like that I'll just watch. I'll just pop it on and watch it because I love watching it. And Maverick's one of them, but he's a great actor. Graham Greene's a great actor. And then of course Thunderheart. I love that movie too. Oh, Randy Boone. Oh, he's older too. Yeah, Floyd Levine, character actor. Just you see this right here. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Floyd Levine, character actor. There's a lot of these guys. Like you see them, you might not know who they are because they weren't really like famous, but they're famous. They're famous entertainers, but not on the level like a Robert Redford, right? But then you know who they are because you've seen them and stuff, right? And again, the time period I come from, man, television was big, so a lot of these people are character actors, so they would fill certain roles. Right? Lance Henriksen is one of them. So then they do well on television, and they get bit roles in movies, and they become celebrity superstars off of that kind of stuff, right? And so the best thing I can equate it to, if you guys watch K dramas like I do, that's what you see a lot with K dramas. K dramas, like the Korean entertainment industry, still has that kind of old school Hollywood studio industry, right? A lot of these people work for studios, or they work for, at least in Korea, right? They work for these studios and stuff. That's why you see them in multiple shows. But the great thing about that is it shows how great actors they are, right? Because there's guys that I'll see in a movie and I absolutely love their character, and like there's this one character I've seen him in, and he played the dad, and he played such a good dad, in that movie. Then the next movie I've seen him in, dude, he was a dirtbag businessman, right? And then you don't see him as a dad anymore. You see him as even though he's the same dude, right? And that's what they mean about character actors, right? They're able to occupy the character space, and I think that's a lot. That's a lot with what's wrong with entertainment today, because we don't have people like this anymore, and we don't have productions like this anymore. We don't have the studios doing this anymore for various reasons. Oh, I thought Terrence Stamp was this year. Oh, I thought it was last year. Tristan Rogers, this is the dude, man, from General Hospital. He played Robert Scorpio. Right. So again, this is an age thing, guys. So I was there when my auntie, them, and even my grandmother, they was all watching General Hospital because of the Luke and Laura. Right. If you guys don't know, it's called there's a series, right? And there's this story arc that featured these two characters, Luke and Laura, right? And Robert Scorpio, man, that was a cool dude. Like his name alone, Robert Scorpio. But even his name, this is his name, Tristan Rogers. So his real name, I always like this name, Tristan Rogers, right? British, right? Yeah, British people have cool names. But it was like Robert Scorpio. That was his character's name. That was cool. I'm sure Sheila Jordan is. Yeah, Danielle Spencer, man. This one broke my heart, dude. So she was on What's Happening. She played the character Dee. So you had Raj, Dwayne, Rerun. Those are the three friends. And then Danielle Spencer played the young sister, Dee. And so she had a mouth on her, dude. She was good. And then, of course, the mom. I forgot the name of the character. I'm so bad. I'm so old. But she passed away, too. Wow, she was 60 years old. Oh wow, she's older than me. I thought she was younger than me. But she played that character. She was meant to play that character. But What's Happening? That's like was one of my favorite. And then she was in, I think, What's Happening Now, right, as well. Yeah, that was sad. I'm not sure. Bobby Whitlock. Yeah, James Lovell Jr. Apollo 13. Yeah. So I believe that's the character that Tom Hanks played, right? In Apollo 13, the movie. He's 97 years old. Man. See, we're losing a lot of people, guys, man. If you guys don't know about this story, man, I'm not just talking about the movie, but dive yourself into the story, dude. This is why I love NASA. This is what NASA was all about, dude. We're losing all these dudes, man. All these pioneers, bro. Oh, man, Lonnie Anderson. Yeah, she was 79. I forgot she passed away this year, too. Man, WKRP in Cincinnati. And then the whole thing she had with Burt Reynolds and all of that stuff, dude. I was eating that stuff up. And I was a little kid back then. She's actually from the 70s. Man, but she was like, dude, man. You know how people talk about that girl? What's that girl's name? That did the G's commercial? Right? So back then, even us, man, like it was her. Who was the other girls at that time? The Charlie's Angels. What's her name? Farrah Fawcett. Right? You had like these women back then, dude, that they were just Adrienne Barbeau, right? Erin Gray was my favorite. She was on Buck Rogers. She was always beautiful. Yeah, but man, Lonnie Anderson, her character was really cool, man. It's WKRP, so she played the receptionist. And there was this one dirtbag guy. That's probably why people can't like that show would get canceled. It was played now, man, because they had this guy Herb Tarlick, and I just loved his name, and I loved this character. And the dude that played the character, he was a dirtbag dude. He was the salesman at the radio station. He had to sell the ads and get the stuff together. But he was funny, man, because he was in love with Lonnie Anderson, and he was just that guy. I'm pretty sure if he worked somewhere, he was the dude that would always hit on Lonnie Anderson's character. And there's this one episode, it was so funny because Lonnie Anderson actually bit, right? She actually bit back at it, right? And was like, yeah, let's do it. And it basically like reversed it on it. And it just like freaked him out. Like it totally like stole his mojo, man. It was like such a great scene. So the writer that did that, dude, that was awesome. The guy that came up with that, dude. That was an awesome moment in television. Oh, man, dude. Yeah, the Hulkster, man. And look, dude, I've been arguing with people online, dude, about people coming at me, man, because of his racism stuff like that, bro. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I don't care. I don't care, bro. I mean, I grew up as a whole, dude. I grew up with the whole, dude. My dad and my grandfather used to watch wrestling, so I grew up in that '70s and all that backwater stuff that was popular. Of course, being in Hawaii, right? We had our own circuit here. I moved to the mainland, and that's when it blew up for me, man, because that's when things were regional back in the day, right? That's how it was. And then Hulk Hogan was that dude, man, and Vince McMahon, dude. They're the ones that put it on the map, man. They're the one that made it prime time, dude, and nothing's gonna take that away from them. And I know some of you have been pissed off about me saying that. I don't care, bro. Sorry. He was the man, dude. He was the one. And because of his, man, it's fun. It's like the same way I give respect to Halo every time. If it wasn't for Halo, dude, we wouldn't have all the shooting games we have now. Right? That's just the reality of it, man. And he's a human, dude. People make mistakes. And I know, man, at the end of his life, dude, the thing that I'm happy about is that he gave his life to Jesus. He became a Christian. But of course, when you do that, dude, you don't get rid of the stuff that's bad in your life, dude. In fact, it gets amplified. And that's what he went through. And he handled it real well. As he should, man, because that's the way it is. If you're a Christian, dude, and you be Christian, and you're going to get attacked, man. And some of it, because I'm not saying you deserve it, but it's just like we made choices and we have to own up to that stuff, dude. It's hard. It's hard, dude, but he took it like a champ. And of course, there's politics get involved, which is sad he's more than all of that stuff, you know. And it shouldn't be surprising to a lot of people, man, because the whole thing about about your prayers and vitamins and all this kind of stuff, that was him, and that was really him. That's who he was. So for him to transition at a younger age to the person he is now, not a surprising thing. So shout out to the Hulkster, man. Always gonna be a Hogan fan. And Ozzy, yeah, he passed away too. Oh man, Chuck Mangione as well, dude. Malcolm Jamal Warner, that was sad. He drowned, right? Dude, that's the problem we have here where I live, man. People don't realize about the undertow and how strong the currents are sometimes, man. That's why you have to have lifeguards out there. Because that stuff is real, bro. Kenneth Washington. Yeah, that's right. That's him on Hogan's Heroes. Wow, 88 years old. Oh, man, I didn't know he passed. Dude. You know what, guys? Alan Bergman. Connie Francis. That's of my Auntie Dim's era. Yep, she's the first to have a #1 solo. Connie Francis, man. She has great music, man. If you just go online, dude, and look at her discography, and then listen to her music, man. I've been, the one person, I know I'm running kind of long, guys. I kind of want to wrap it up. No disrespect to these icons, man. You know what it is, right? You hear like almost that's what I'm talking about. Almost every month you hear about it, but then you hear constant passings and stuff like that. But I do want to tribute, man. Connie Francis, dude, shout out. That's amazing to me, man. Now what I'm going to do is go back and listen to her music. Right? Because that's what I've been doing, man. The one person I wanted to talk about, man, is Ace Frehley, who passed away as well. Since I'm here. Let me get off this, dude. Let me wrap this up, guys, because I've been running real long, and I know I'm going into a thing that's more era focused than not. And I know I've missed some people, guys. It's not. I don't do it on purpose. Some of the people I don't know. Some of them, I'll streamline it a little bit more because there's a lot of people that passed away that I just realized when I was going down there as well. Like they had the one actress from Buffy passed away too. Yeah, as you can tell, man, I did not realize some of these people passed away. Right. So sorry about the background noise, guys. We're gonna wrap it up. But the person I really wanted to talk about too was Ace Frehley. Let me just pull up something real quick, just so you guys get a picture of who he is, if it lets me. So I got the news the other day, right, and I kind of shared it on my social media just to pay respect to the man. Um, he's a great guitarist, on top of being one of the biggest bands of all time. And again, this is a time thing for me, guys. When I was born, right, Kiss. I mean, I was young, and Kiss was big. And for me, dude, the reason why I like Kiss is because of their outfits and their costumes and their makeup. It's the same way that I put it in the same vein of being a Steelers fan. right? I grew to be a Steelers fan over time, but the reason I initially liked the Steelers is because of the black and gold uniforms. And again, I was born in '73, right? The '70s was the the Steeler dynasty. So I didn't really get into it until I got into into the '80s, and got up in age, and I followed the team ever since. '80s were a bit rough. '90s we kind of turned it around, and of course the Super Bowl years that came in the 2000s, which I got to experience, right? So that's what I said with Kiss. When I first saw Kiss, man, they're very much a rock band, and they're very much some people have a debate on whether they're hard rock or not, or some people don't even consider it metal, right? I've listened to enough of their music and discography. I know a lot about their music. At the end of the day, for me, they're just a good American rock band, right? One of my favorite albums of all time is Dynasty, right? Not only do I think it's one of the best albums ever made, it's like in my top 20 of all time, right? But it's also one of the best album covers. So if I have a list of album covers, that's always number one on there, right? And some of it is because the era that I grew up in, right? But if you guys didn't know, man, stadium rock was big back then. Theatrical rock was big back then. This is when guys like David Bowie, like groups like Queen, right? You had ELO, you had all of these different bands, and Kiss was the rock and metal of that time, dude. But they for me personally, dude, they were like the complete package, right? I loved the way they used to entertain. Of course, later on as I got older, right, they got a lot of, especially being a Christian, right? Kiss, Nights in Sing Service, all that stuff, right? But I just remembered it from a kid, man. I remember watching the movie, right? Because I had cousins that were older cousins, right? That I would watch stuff with them because they were watching me and I'd watch it. But I never looked beyond what they are, except for what was presented to me at the time, especially being young and naive. But I just loved their costumes. I loved the theatrics. I loved the music. They were very entertaining, right? They had a touch of Alice Cooper, they had a touch of Ozzy Osbourne, they had all of that rolled into one. Right? And so, of course, now that I've seen that he passed away, I think he fell. And then because of his age, and he fell down, and then he had complications. Um, and then he ended up passing. And I appreciate them sharing that news, man, because I would not have known, right? I had no idea, like some of the other people that passed away. Right? But it's sad because I believe they're actually going to be honored. They're going to do a Kennedy, the Kennedy music. They're going to honor Kiss, and all the members are alive. And then Ace has passed away, so he won't be able to attend. So it'll be post-mortem, which I feel is sad. It would have been great to see them all on the stage, man, because I think they deserve the kudos, because they were so huge back in their day. Then they revamped during the '80s, and then metal became a big thing. It's funny because I was listening to their song, man. I was listening to Dynasty, the entire album over again, and that's why I feel bad because the reason why I'm listening to it, I haven't listened to the music in a long time, and so he passed, and so that's why I'm listening to it, man. I just get caught up in it and everything like that. What ended up happening, like with Amazon Music, man. So I had it playing, and then I guess I went to the entire playlist, and then I switched over to Motley Crue. But the interesting thing about that happening, because "Looks to Kill" was the song from Motley Crue, which is a great song, and so that flipped over to Looks That Kill," and then it's like you didn't even miss a beat, right? Which tells me again that their influence on music in general, right? Because if you listen to Motley Crue, you get a lot of influence from Kiss out of that too, and it's just because it's just guttural rock music, right? At the end of the day. And so I was like listening to that, and I was like, "Oh man, that's amazing to me." That's the type of influence they have. So it's unfortunate that he won't be able to receive his honor, in person. Right? And it's sad to me. Again, it's like everything else I've been talking about, man. A lot of this stuff is going by the wayside. Things are changing, and you ain't getting any younger. You know what I'm saying? I'm not getting any younger. Me and Heba, man, and some of the brethren, we talk about this stuff all the time. Me and Heba talk offline about our medical problems, right? Because we both got issues going on and stuff like that, and that's just because of age. I tell my kids that for guys, it's not about the number. I could care less how old I am by number. It's how I feel in the morning when I get up. I have to get up in the morning and go to the gym. I have to get up in the morning. I gotta so this is my routine. I got up this morning, right? I didn't have to stretch this morning as much, right? Because I wanted to get a good night's sleep in, and I wanted to hurry up and get to the gym before it got too crowded, right? So that I can focus on my therapy. So I get up, man. I drink my protein / caffeine mocha drink, which I need, right? I do that first thing, right? By the time I hit the gym, dude, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Do a quick little warm up. Then I'm hitting the weights, right? So back in the day when I'm younger, dude, I used to do weights and stuff like that. It was all about body beautiful, right? You want to have the biggest muscles, biggest this and that. Nowadays, dude, it's just about function, um, gain of function, motion, right? Being limber, right? So you doing all these words that when I was younger, you look at, like, that's what old people do. Well, I'm old now. And then, so I'll do exercises, right? So then I'll grab like a 15, 20 pound dumbbell, right? And so I was doing curls, right? Just to get some cardio in, right? That's what I do for weights, right? I don't do massive weights. I just do lighter reps, lighter weight, more reps, pause sets, all this kind of stuff, right? And that's how I get my cardio going, right? Get my breathing, right? Because I have really bad knees, so I can't really do hardcore anything with my legs like I used to. Anyway, bottom line, I'm feeling it, right? So that's my routine. That's what I do. Right? I have to do that now. So everything I do is just to be mobile, right? Just to stay fluid, right? Just to be able to do stuff throughout the day. And that's what me and Heba talk about. But I get it, man. And, we're getting up there in age, man. And this is when you start thinking, right? I'll close out with this, guys. We'll just wrap it up real fast. Appreciate the chat, everybody being here. Kenneth, man, thank you for sharing that. What you shared, man, and without memory name with me, right? And even though those days are gone, dude, we can still live the gaming dream that we have now, right? I know I still do every day, and that's saying something. If somebody old as me can still enjoy gaming. Mr. Kima, thanks for being here, brother. Thanks for dropping knowledge as well. Hebot, my brother, thank you for being here as well. And all the people that popped in and out, man. I saw the numbers on the screen. I just want to acknowledge everybody. Maybe you watched it and you come back later. Maybe you're just joining it. But if you do, man, I know this has gone long, so I do want to wrap it up. But in closing, dude, look, at the end of the day, man, mortality is a real thing. I know some of my brethren, a lot of the stuff I post on social media. You guys know I'm a Christian, right? I am born again. So, a lot of the stuff I shared is from my younger days, guys. But in closing, I just like, look, dude, I didn't mean to do this on purpose, man. It's just that something that stuck out to me, and I wanted to talk about that. Talk about mortality, right? Because at the end of the day, man, there's two guarantees, right, that they say in life, and one of them is that you're born and then you die, right? And that happens. That comes for everybody. Nobody's gonna escape it. So you have to get your priorities in order, right? Spend quality time with the people that you love. This is another reason why I don't get involved in all the drama. Again, for me, it's more about principle than it is about arguing. It's about putting the right information out there on this channel than it is about just the console warring with people. At the end of the day, I can do that too. I control just as much as the next guy. But again, when you have stuff like this, it's a reminder how time is limited, man. And at the end of the day, man, look, after you die, man, you have to make the choice now that you're living. After you die, bro, there's two places, right? And I'm going to be nice, right? Either you're going to be with God or you're going to be without God, right? And where you want to be is with God. And I know some people, you guys, especially in these streets that we work in, but look, there's a movement happening in culture, man. I know some people say it's a revival. I won't go as far as to say it's a total revival, dude, but there is the spirit. The spirit of God is definitely moving across this country. I'm seeing it more and more every day. You're seeing a lot with the younger generation as well, and that's important, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter what you've done in your life, right? At the end of the day, right, you can be forgiven, and you can accept Jesus. And if you accept Jesus, you'll be in eternity in heaven with God. Right? And look, the president said the other day, he's not sure if he's going to go to heaven, right? And then he has been. You see him, right? He does like the prayers, right? He talks about Christianity. He's talking about all this kind of stuff, right? He's on a journey at the end of the day, and I'm praying for him, right? Regardless how you feel about him or not, right? I'm not even going to go that direction. You can not like him, you can like him, and whether how you feel, how we agree, disagree, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, dude, everybody dies, right? And you got to make a choice now where you want to be at the end of your life, right? Because once it's over, dude, it's over. There is no second chances, right? And I kind of feel for the president. I'm praying for him, man, because he's saying the things of somebody that's on a journey to get there, and he needs to get there, right? Because there is only one way to get to heaven, to use his term, but you have to be in the presence of God, which is through Jesus Christ. This is why John 3:16 is important, right? For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That is a truism. This is why Jesus came to earth. This is why he ministered to everybody on earth. This is why he was crucified and rose again, right? He was the ultimate sacrifice, so everybody can be an atonement of their sins, no matter what you've done, and then you can stand before God and be with him. Now, everybody gets judged, right? But that's the base issue right there, right? You need to believe in Jesus. That's first and foremost, right? And then you begin your Christian walk, which will not be easy. Will not be easy. Like some of the stuff I talked about right now. This is a pop culture podcast. Some of the stuff I did when I was younger, not very Christian-like. pray for forgiveness, make the changes you need to meet, and then live for God. All right. So that's how we're gonna close it out today, guys. I know a little bit of a serious, a down note, but I just gotta be honest with you guys because I care about you, dude. Man. I do. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Man. Accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, right? Change your lifestyle, right? But first and foremost, accept Him as your Lord and Savior. You have to. That's step one. You can't go beyond that. Again, use the president as an example. He said, maybe I've done enough in my life to earn my way into heaven. You can't earn your way into heaven. Everybody's a sinner. Everybody's falling short. This is why Jesus came to earth, God in the flesh, crucified on the cross, rose again 3 days later, ascended into heaven, sits at the right hand throne of God, right? And He's your mediator, no matter what you do. Like the other day, I was on the road, got into an argument with somebody, lost my cool. Not very Christian. Would Jesus do that? No, He would not have done that. And I didn't like the guy on top of that. I had like hateful feelings for the guy. Would Jesus do that? No. Was that guy wrong? Definitely it was wrong. But I just should have kept my trap shut and just let it go. Right? He flipped me off, I just should have let it go. Right? But I did not. Right? The Christian walk is not perfect. In fact, when you become a Christian, it becomes even harder because you get the acknowledgement of you get forgiveness, and then the knowledge is given to you. Then you have the Holy Spirit to convict you. So sometimes when you do things, you don't know that you're doing something wrong. Right? And I'm talking like things that you just did in your life, and then it becomes known to you, right? Like how you get angry or how you swear, how you use the Lord's name in vain. You shouldn't do that, right? Then you get that, right? And then the Holy Spirit convicts you because the Holy Spirit comes upon you. He convicts you, and then this is how you live your life moving forward. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But again, Jesus sits there, right, as your mediator between Him and God. That's why prayer is important, right? But this is what you need first. This is what the president needs to realize. He needs Jesus. There is no other way. I don't care how many people he saves, how many treaties he signs. They're good. That's good. I'm not saying it's bad. No matter whatever he does, right? If he saves the economy, does it save the economy, right? He gives me $2,000 in back taxes, or he cuts a check to $2,000, $5,000, however much he said he's going to cut because of the economic times. Right? His tariffs actually work. Right? He broke us a peace deal between Israel and Gaza. None of that's just act. That's doing stuff. That's not what salvation is. It's good. Like that stuff can be good, right? I'm not saying it's not. And the reason I tell you guys that because a lot of people always wonder about that. Like that person was such a good person. They were nice. They never swore. But why did they get cancer and then they died? Everybody, we're all gonna die, guys. Right? What you want to do is you want to be with God and not away from God. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on, but I think it's important. All right. So anyway, I hope you guys like the video. We're gonna be doing this every Saturday. He bought, man, for the brethren out there. If you guys want to pop in, man, I know it's a little bit heavy. That's why I didn't put a link out there. But if you want to pop in, you can. Right. And then, but for the podcast, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it on a format. So if you guys want to pop in, I'll send you everything. And that's the topics I kind of want to stay on. And then, in order to do these podcasts, I'm gonna have to start shortening them. The Wrecking Crew can be what the Wrecking Crew is, and I'll do that on Friday. And then it'll be coming back next week, guys. And if you guys are pro Xbox like I am, dude, enjoy your games. Because at the end of the day, that's what counts, and that's what Xbox is doing the best. All right, Xbox Online channel, Jose Forever, we are.